The announcement was made yesterday relative to the NBA awards that you are going to have to base your voting off everything that had happened before the shutdown of league play in March, that none of the games ramping up to the postseason were going to count towards that award, which, as we know, has some effect because we had discussed in this. Giannis was the overwhelming favorite for a majority of the year, but LeBron James had a late push that was starting before everything shut down that led some of us to believe, if he could continue that, maybe even in these ramp-up games, could you at least make it close in all of this one right now? So LeBron James spoke at a press conference yesterday and gave his thoughts on the final MVP votes basically already being tallied right now.
No, I'm not disappointed because, things happen and control what you can control, and I can't control that. But as far as the MVP race, I think, show what I'm capable of doing, not only individually, but from a team's perspective. Us being number one in the West, there was a lot of conversation about LeBron can do those things in the East, but if he ever came to the West, what can he do? I heard all of that, and to be able to have our team at the top of the Western Conference and playing the way that we were playing at that time and the way I was playing, that's definitely a good feeling.
Listen, there's no doubt how great LeBron is and what he was doing. It's incredible at 35 years old, what he's accomplishing there with the Lakers, and the thought he would have had 8 more games in the bubble. Now, who knows if he'd have played all 8 games, quite honestly.
Yeah, what his minutes would have looked like.
Yeah, it would take a lot for them to lose the number 1 seed spot. So I understand what they're doing. I just think Giannis had another one of those years. Yeah, the Lakers were great out in the West, but Milwaukee is the best record in the NBA, and that is because of Giannis. And I think he wins the second MVP. Quite honestly, I think he wins Defensive Player of the Year as well.
Yeah, that was the other thing we heard echoed from Brian Windhorst and some others, and that's the kind of transcendent season. And I guess that's the difficult part of this, because wins are a little more tied to your stars in the NBA just because of how much of an effect they can have on the team in a lot of this one. But we do have to account for some of the differences in that. The NBA's got so many great advanced stats that when you look at player efficiency rating and things like that, Giannis is flirting with one of the best seasons we've ever seen in that one. The ones that are supposed to be able to account for history, era, pace, all of these things that come up in these situations that sort of make arguments just pluck him off the team a little less relevant in this, because we've got something to grade on that scale.
Yeah, I mean, what he did, again, 25 years old, averaging almost 30 points a game, almost 55% shooting, 30% from threes, almost 14 rebounds, just about 6 assists. I mean, he had a monster year, and obviously they had the best record in the NBA. The Lakers, though, did go 8-2 with wins over the Celtics, the Clippers, and the Bucks, who are led, obviously, by Giannis. So, I get the thought process, but I think Giannis is going to win it. I think he should win it. Just like that Rookie of the Year, we thought, will Zion have that chance in the bubble to catch Ja Morant? Well, Zion's not even now in the bubble. And again, we hope all is well with the family emergency. He had to leave the bubble before. Ja Morant is going to win that, I think, unanimously for that. So I think we look at all the awards. Would it be, do you think any differently that Giannis is the MVP, Ja Morant is the Rookie of the Year, Nick Nurse probably the Coach of the Year? I think that one should probably be a slam dunk considering everything they've absorbed in the last couple of years. But I want to stick with the MVP conversation for a second, because Brian Windhorst, who we're going to have on a little bit, we heard in the open, said this thing is signed, sealed, and delivered at this point. Don't bother wasting your time on LeBron. Our own Kendrick Perkins, ESPN NBA analyst, said yesterday he thinks that talk is a little premature.
LeBron, right before the pandemic, he was on Giannis' heels like a pair of socks. So I don't understand how it's just a landslide to me. And where's this same energy when LeBron was in the Eastern Conference and we was talking about it was a weak Eastern Conference? Here it is now. The Lakers haven't made the playoffs since 2013. That was 7 years ago. And now they're in the playoffs at the #1 spot, with LeBron James finally in his career is averaging a 20-10 season, 25 points, almost 11 assists and 8 rebounds. And by the way, I don't just feel that way. Some of his co-workers who he play against feel that way. Dame Dollar said it during the pandemic. What LeBron doing right now is very, very special, despite being 35 in year 17.
Listen, and I agree with everything he said. what he's doing at 35 years old, how he prepares himself every year, because there was the moment of missing all that time last year with the groin. He's older. How is he going to come back for that? And he has been nothing short of spectacular.
But I'm curious, the other part of this is why there hasn't been any of the conference slander associated with Giannis in this, especially because he hasn't climbed the mountaintop yet.
Because I think we got to the point with LeBron of Michael Jordan that he could be considered the MVP, and they're not going to get it because you've won them already. So I do think there is that element to it. Fair or unfair?
But I guess I'm saying the Eastern Conference backdrop, because that was part of the narrative for LeBron forever was, well, of course he was in the finals every year because who else was he playing against in the Eastern Conference with a lot of this? Who else was going on this? I mean, the faces have not changed all that much. The Toronto Raptors were the team that were running into the LeBron James ceiling for years with, again, now that Kawhi Leonard left, largely the same group that they've got now besides DeMar DeRozan, who departed and went to the Spurs.
Yeah, and Kevin Durant hasn't even started playing in the East yet, and Kyrie Irving was injured for a lot of time in the East. So you're right, there aren't those big named players in the East.
Well, and it's not even to say they're bad teams, but like the Boston Celtics, when LeBron was going through the East, had that big three that won a championship and were quality there for a stretch. And a lot of this one, they had those Chicago Bulls teams when Derrick Rose was still healthy and that core was intact. This is not to knock a Miami Heat team that blew out a lot of our expectations this year with Jimmy Butler, the Pacers, who with a healthy Victor Oladipo look a lot different, and a Sixers team that sits at the 6th seed right now that everyone thinks is
make
dangerous.
A move,
But a lot of that context didn't matter when we were talking about LeBron with people. And so I'm just curious if it's a, Giannis likability thing, as if we don't see him still yet as having been near the top long enough for us to start to question, well, why haven't you done anything?
Yeah, I think there's something definitely to that. I think he's this bright young player who's already been in MVPs, who maybe is on the precipice of leading his team to a title. I think he's still climbing that mountain. He's up there as a player, but can you take your team like LeBron took the Cavaliers all the way to the mountaintop after he did it in Miami, but he took a Cav team, kind of drag them along, and he's taken teams to the mountaintop.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.